Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. First and foremost, this is the last show of the year. So we thought we'd give you a little taste of that before, because I'm pretty sure you're probably going to get this. Well, you probably get this before the new year, now that I think about it. But we'll see. If you don't, hey.
You might.
If you don't, hey, happy New Year's either way. I am your host, Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at NewsNerdsNeed on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram.
South Carolina with Columbia down the way.
And the sound effects you've heard come from none other than our man in Brooklyn, Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody? Co-hosting from the Borough of Kings as always.
Who I am sure, unlike myself, is on point with his Duolingo, as I just remembered that I did not do my
I am. I
was like, wait. Now I'm sitting here thinking about it when we started, but nevertheless, we will get to this, and maybe I still got freezes, so I should be fine. But you can find this here podcast on the Cold Slither Podcast Network. That's CSPN.us. Do
it today.
You gotta love how these little outside nuggets kind of come in the intro of the show. You can also find this here podcast on your podcast proposal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Cold Slither Podcast Network SoundCloud page.
Remember to click like, subscribe, and give us all the great 5-star reviews, especially on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, all of them, all over the place, everywhere. Yeah, folks, like we said, this is the last Comic Book Chronicles of this year, 2022. And unlike last week where we had we were lighter on books and kind of heavy-ish on news, it is kind of the opposite, where we've got a good bit of books, well, not a lot of news. So yeah, this ought to be a fun one to round out the end of the year. Plus, it's 499th episode, which means our 500th episode is going to be next year and next week in the new year.
Yes, and we've got some special things in store for you, our loyal listeners and viewers, next year. It's really next week.
Yeah, and maybe, hopefully, possibly, we can actually bring back the year-end the year-end shows that we normally do. That being counting talking about the books from the end of the or from throughout the year that we probably barely remember that we've read.
I laugh. Part of me wishes that everyone could see the look on my face that I gave Roddykat. I was like, yeah, okay. It's going to be like some time spent studying all of our old, I wanted to say character sheets, like it was D&D, our old show notes, for an entire year, and see what we've been reading and what we've talked about.
And yeah, indeed, and that one special sheet, the Kliqs of the Year sheet that we always put the data on, or at least somebody always puts the data on, and
almost always.
No. I'm not talking about the deliberation sheets. I'm talking about the Kliqs of the whole Kliqs of the Year, where
Oh, yeah. I see.
No, I'm not talking about that. No, you're great on that. It's everybody else.
Yeah, I was gonna say that deliberation sheet is something I try. Like as soon as it comes out, I was like, I try to do it.
Yeah. So it's the rest of us that have kind of fallen slack for various reasons. But you know what? That is another show for probably next week to talk about. This week we're going to get into the books of the week. Starting off with, I believe we said, Moon Knight number 18.
Yes, Moon Knight number 18 is written by Jed McKay with art by Federico Sabatini, colors by Rochelle Rosenberg, and letters by VC's Corey Petit. So, this issue of this multi-issue arc is titled Party Monster, and trust me, that is a very apt title. This is basically the culmination of this structure storyline, and a lot of what's been happening in Moon Knight has basically had two stories kind of intertwined and working, being these two stories kind of being told in parallel. One being this structure, quote unquote, like literally, of a new network of vampires basically looking to muscle in on the New York action. And the Zodiac, like this current version or this latest version of the Zodiac. And McKay has been telling these two stories kind of back and forth and kind of alternating between one and the other. This issue really put a great capper on the structure story, but without really putting, and I hate to use this particular trope because it does, have vampiric connotations. He doesn't necessarily put the nail in the coffin per se, but what he does do is provide some finality to this structure storyline, but still keeping the threat of the vampires in New York City around, in that there is a witness left behind for if you're familiar with like the pages of Avengers, or with the story with the vampire story that's being told in Avengers, and obviously that's being told throughout the Marvel publishing universe, is that the current Dracula-led vampire nation is holed up, based out of Chernobyl, the radioactive fallout in Chernobyl, just on the edges of Ukraine. So ultimately, what we have is the great way that Moon Knight deals with this structure story, and we also have a tease of what is to come. So, I really enjoyed this book. This is definitely a Kliq of the Week candidate for me because I had a great time reading it. I thought that the art really complemented McKay's kind of, some of the story beats that he set up. So.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything Agent 7 and 8 said. But, this is kind of what I dare say we've come to expect with Jed McKay and certain characters that he writes. We say a similar thing about a similar but slightly different thing about Black Cat. Moon Knight,
Right.
being another character that he writes and writes pretty well, because pretty much gets down to the some would say the core of the character, but it doesn't go through all the other stuff because let's face it, Moon Knight's got a kind of a convoluted history. So it just kind of sticks to the, I feel bad about saying this, but the Batman of it, the Batmanness of it a little bit.
To a certain, I was going to say to a certain extent, but what's funny is that he actually adds to the convoluted history because of Hunter's Moon and all that other stuff.
True.
So it's kind of interesting that, you bring up Moon Knight's convoluted past. He had, McKay has dealt with it during this run.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way around that. You will, if you go back to throughout the 18 issues, you will find aspects of the entirety of Moon Knight's past sprinkled throughout. So I definitely, agree with that part. I don't know necessarily if he's stepping right into the Batman-ness of it, but more so, I think the supernatural.
Sure.
I think that would be my counterpoint.
Sure.
to what you just
Well,
said,
I mean,
because he's really stepping into the supernatural element.
no, I agree, and because
More so than other like runs of Moon Knight. That's my point.
right, and actually going back to his and which goes back to the core of his when he came about, because as we know, he came about in a supernatural book, which was Werewolf by Night, and has always been
Right.
in that corner of the universe in one way, shape, or form. So yeah, you're absolutely right about that. So it just kind of keeps him there. And also kind of funny because this is another book this week that I don't think Agent 70 read, but I did, where Dracula and the and vampires end up showing up.
It wasn't that the other Greg Land book out this week?
No.
Okay.
Exterminators.
Oh, I skimmed that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I skimmed it, so you feel free to spoil it when you discuss it.
Yeah. That's not much to it, but it's good. But anyway, but we'll get to that when we get to that. But to wrap up Moon Knight, yeah, there was the whole thing with he and Tigra kind of going in and everything that happens with it. You just have to read it for yourself. We won't go, full into it. The one thing that kind of tripped me out for like 5 seconds that you mentioned was that whole bit with Hunter's Moon. Because when we last saw him, now granted, that's not necessarily the state that we last saw him was the end all be all, because Moon Knight, Mark Spector himself, has come back from the dead a couple of different times, so not surprising to see Hunter's Moon back. But they didn't explain it, which I don't know if they actually maybe they'll go into it next.
They explained it in the last issue.
They did.
It happened in the last issue, so you maybe want to flip back to that one.
Yeah, maybe I forgot what happened in that issue then. So, because I don't remember that. But okay, yeah. Well, that being said, yeah. So, because I know when I read it, I was like, wait, what? But then, like I said, it wasn't like it was a surprise, because, like I said, things in this universe, and especially with Moon Knight and whatever, wasn't that big of a surprise. But so, okay, I'll go back and check that out. But anyway,
yeah. I was about to say it's a Fist of Khonshu thing. That's how they explain it. But you'll see it in when you flip back to issue 17.
Once again, not surprised. So given that situation.
Yeah, I really like. I was about to say I give Federico Sabatini a lot of credit. There's one full page splash here where it's Hunter's Moon, Tigra, and Moon Knight talking to that one survivor. I was like, I really like that.
And that also, going back to a Game of Thrones kind of thing, was like, tell Dracula we did this kind of situation.
Yeah, that it was me. That's true.
So
that is true.
It's like that's why he had to want to. Somebody's got to live to tell the tale.
Yep.
Although it kind of messed me up a second, because even though I know that doesn't have anything to do with what happened at the end of the issue, but for about 2 seconds I thought it did. I'm like, well, wait, how did this end up coming out to be that? But there were two separate things. So, like I said, it was the 2 seconds that just kind of threw me. I was like, oh wait, no, that has nothing to do. Well, it has nothing directly to do with that, because we know this other character that has been around,
Right.
So
right. Okay.
But we'll see. Next up, though, I didn't get a good look at what you read here.
We have a few books in common.
We do. Let's do She-Hulk.
That sounds good to me.
All right.
Notice, folks, when we get to the books that we're staying away from. She-Hulk number 9 is written by Rainbow Rowell, with art by the always reliable Takeshi Miyazawa, colors by Rico Renzi, and letters by our favorite lettering paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna. And Roddykat and I had a chance to discuss this book just prior to starting the show, so I have a feeling I know what he's going to lead on. But go ahead.
Yes, folks, this has been a great book, but also, as probably what we said about the last issue of this book, there were certain MCU-like liberties that were starting to take place, And this particular issue, which is not a knock on it, by the way, in this particular case, continues to happen in a very big way near the end of this issue. Like I said, I won't necessarily go into it, but if you know She-Hulk's history, and even if actually you've watched the MCU show, you kind of get an idea of what I could possibly mean with that.
Right.
It seems like this book, and because I can't remember if this is supposed to be, how many issues is supposed to be. Did they say 12?
No idea.
Yeah, but it sounds like it seems like they're basically starting to bring this the story to a close sooner rather than later. So yeah, I'm thinking it was supposed to be 12, but I have to go look, and I'm not gonna do that at this very moment. But nevertheless, like I said, we're kind of turning into the last, what seems to be the last part of this story. And like I said, the MCU parallels, which we normally groan about, which honestly I slightly did here too, but it was also like, nah, it was done in a pretty great way, the way I couldn't be too mad at it. But it was still there, and it was still
yeah. I'll tell you that. Hold your thoughts just for a second. I was looking for a baseball hat. Okay. That's all I was looking for. I was like something or some show up in a baseball hat. Go ahead.
No. Sorry. I was done with what I had to say, actually.
Gotcha. So. Well, you know, but bottom line here is, with the MCU parallels being very clear, they are also very much storytelling elements that borrow heavily from previous She-Hulk runs, right, which I am not familiar. I'm not completely familiar with, but I understand what they are. That being, you know, this is all very much pre-Deadpool, fourth wall breaking.
Correct.
And also with some kind of wry humor, very meta-textual references on page. So there are some very meta-textual references to one Jack of Hearts throughout like the second half of this issue. So I really enjoyed that. We also have some I think kind of, you know, relatively poignant looks at what Jennifer Walters really thinks of what her existence is in comics. You know, I think that's kind of, you know, let out here. And the cliffhanger ending here obviously, you know, leaves her and another character in a certain place, but we are, you know, left wondering, and that's why it's a cliffhanger, and we will see what happens in the next issue.
Right. Yeah, like Agent 7 said, the fourth wall breaking thing goes back to, you know, like read Dan Slott's run from back to like 2000. Actually, probably it definitely goes further than that. But
no, wasn't it the Byrne run?
No,
like
the
original.
I'm saying I'm correcting myself in saying
it
goes for, but still between Slott's run, which is a great run, and the show took beats from the Byrne run also, where she did way more of the fourth wall. That's where that came from, as Agent 70 was saying.
Gotcha.
So basically tying those two together. You know, and this pretty much is kind of a callback to that era too, except for without because the fourth wall breaking back then was more goofy in a lot of points, and you know, has been brought up a few different times, but this is the first time we've seen in a story this, I guess, quote unquote serious of a tone, you know, because normally you could, even back then you could see it coming, but because it was kind of all over the place, and this one was like, I wasn't really expecting it to happen in this particular story, but even when it did, it was like, okay, yeah, here we go with this. So that being said, like I said, I'm still with it and still looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with the story and the characters that Agent 70 mentioned.
Right.
So
Okay. Alrighty. Let me see what else you read before, because there's a certain segment of books here, folks, that we're probably gonna like leave to rapid fire.
Academy?
How about we hit two more books,
Oh, okay.
but like kind of relatively
I was
quickly.
about to say Strange Academy.
So-
we could do it. Just end it right there.
Oh, okay. I was about to say we could also do Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings.
Okay. Do that too.
But we won't spend too much time on these. Strange Academy Finals #3 is written by Scotty Young with art by Humberto Ramos, colors by Edgar Delgado, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowell. So we are immediately following up on the events of the last issue, and the students of the Strange Academy are looking to make up for some of the transgressions that they have committed against the city of New Orleans, kind of as demanded by like the Mystic Council of New Orleans, which permitted Doctor Strange and Doctor Voodoo and their company, which permitted them to build this, Hogwarts in New Orleans. I'm sorry, I think I almost had Roddykat do a spit take just now. Their Strange Academy in and around New Orleans. So they are doing their best to make reparations, but things don't go as planned, and we also find out that some of their more rebellious classmates are looking to cause some disturbance, cause some havoc, and in the midst of like a spell going awry, that's relatively reminiscent of Multiverse of Madness, causing an event that's relatively reminiscent of Multiverse of Madness. We also find out what the deal is with Emily Bright, and who she may be working with, and that's where this issue ends. Do you have what do you have to add?
Yeah, so I think we definitely were talking before the show about this, and it was kind of curious to me that, not curious, I should say, but it was kind of amusing to where the whole cause of this situation and division between the students ends up being one of the ones against the person, the people who were basically were quote unquote trying to have this person's back. But
Right.
now that they've gone through, they're going through whatever transformation that is still not necessarily being explained, then this whole other thing is like, well, fine, then we're just going to go off and do this we're going to keep going without you, even though like you're the reason why we did this in the first place, type of situation, which they still did. They did not mention. Well, I guess they did kind of mention, but kind of offhand mention. So there's clearly more going on here than just what started this whole thing off. And like I said, like Agent 70 said, like, yeah, they're meeting with somebody that I guess they're going to have some dealing with, who has an association with one of the students that was on the other side of the Civil War, let's say. And I guess we're going to see what happens with that. There was something I was going to bring in out about this particular issue that I found kind of amusing. Outside of the fact that while they were at this fundraising thing, Zelma was like, "Yep, something always happens. You can set your clock by it." That wasn't the most amusing thing, but it's like, no, that's just a thing that kind of happens in this world. And you're right, because next panel on, something jumps off, or at least that panel jumps off. But I don't remember what I was gonna get to. It was so it was something. Either way, oh, that's what it was. So at from going from the what happened, what the kids got into, to just jumping into this, I suspect there's another part of the story that we didn't get to see in between that, and whether they're going to jump back to it or not. In between, you know, that big cliffhanger with what happened and now, basically. So I don't know if they're going to address anything else to that, or they've already said everything they need to say, you know, coming out of the last issue. So, but we'll see. Still a great book. Still enjoys Strange Academy. You know, even with evil Emily and the weird turn that is, that they still haven't explained yet. Still enjoying it.
Right. It just seems, it's, I guess what it is that it's a character that is new but doesn't seem consistent. The heel turn, to borrow a wrestling term, seems so abrupt, and I think that's the jarring part. I think it's understandable. I'm willing to let it play out, though, because this character was like literally a new piece of Scotty Young has molded right in front of us.
Right.
One of the few characters, I was about to say, hold your thought. One of the few characters in this entire Strange Academy world that I don't remember having any connection to any other pre-existing character, even like concept.
Correct.
Like she was just Emily
made
Bright
for this book. Yes.
Exactly. Whereas, no, not just being created for this book, but also not being Asgardian, not being, a zombie according to the Marvel zombie rules, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So this is a character that we've really, like she's not the only character. Like I said, like the zombie character Zoe, is a character created out of whole cloth for this book. However, we have our ideas of what zombies are, and then we have what Marvel zombies, I guess, are nowadays.
But even even her character is kind of steeped in a legacy. May not necessarily be a Marvel legacy, but a character that has been in the Marvel universe before now, or at least a
concept.
Yes, before now.
Yeah, that's what I guess. That's what I guess. That's I guess that's why I lumped her in with like the twin Asgardian kids.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the heretofore unknown to us, but we know that they're Asgardian.
Right.
Right. So that means X, Y, and Z.
Right. Now that being said about Emily, so they did kind of explain the quote unquote heel turn. As a matter of fact, it got mentioned in this issue either, but he's even still seems kind of, because I thought, as far as I know, they had kind of dealt with that part, but apparently it's still lingering or something.
Yeah. It still seems severe. That's, I think, it seems like such a sudden and severe heel turn.
Right.
I think that's still what's jarring for, us as longtime readers, since Jump.
Right. So, but hopefully they'll explain that, and I'm sure that'll be like, I don't know, it was a clone or something. No, it won't be that, but it'll be something.
We'll see.
It'll be something supernatural in nature. All right.
I was going to say it's magic.
Yeah.
It is a magic book after all.
Correct.
All right. So as we said, next up is Shang-Chi and the 10 Rings #6. It's written by Jean Luen Yang with art by Marcus To, colors by Eric Arciniega, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. I will repeat what I have said throughout this entire run of this volume of Shang-Chi, in that this is most definitely Jean Luen Yang's ode to some familiar storytelling ideas in martial arts stories and movies, notably seen in the last Bruce Lee film that was finished posthumously, namely Game of Death. And I'll let Roddykat take it from here.
Yes, this is also apparently the end of this this part of the story. I won't say the whole story, but this part of the, as they said in the back of the book, the Jin Yuen Yang saga, as it
Right.
is, because this whole Game of Death tournament thing is now over thanks to this issue, and things are pretty much, well, the whole thing was explained at the end of, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but it was explained why this whole tournament happened. And, it was basically an archetype thing. But also, hey, we got this. It's also leading into another number one, which I believe is a one shot that I think we found out is coming out next week. That I guess is going to.
It's profiled as an. I was going to say, hold that thought. It's profiled as an annual,
Right.
quote unquote. Just what Comic List is listing it as. We'll have more information next week. Go ahead.
Right. So that being said, that while this is the last issue of this particular volume, it's not the end of the story. And we will talk about, I'm sure we will definitely talk about that next week when it happens. And we were talking before the show, just to kind of cap it, about how, certain characters like basically Marvel and DC. Well, Marvel's been doing this more than DC, but where characters have been getting stories that just have a new number one, story's done, and maybe sometimes certain characters will get a continuation of the story, or basically another arc with a new number one, or another, like you saw that in the Ultraman series that I know I've been talking about. We saw that with Ms. Marvel, that's been talking about, like, anybody when they have a story, whether it connects to the last volume or not, somebody has a story to tell, they'll bring it up, they'll do their run, ends, and then that's it. Where this is kind of more on the lines of the Ultraman thing, where it's like, yeah, here we got the same story that's been happening in a couple of parts, but pretty much sectioned off into their own little limited series. So we were talking about that, and we've definitely talked about it before, about like that. Yeah, us as older reasons, as Agent 70 said, prior to the show, us as older reasons, how to kind of have to come to terms with the way that's being done, because we're used to long running one volume things that just kind of keep going, and somebody, if they finish their story, somebody else just happens to come onto the book and just kind of keeps it up in there, and the numbering stays the same. Whereas now, like I said, the earlier things happen the way they happen. We're still glad they get up, certain characters that we like to see more of getting stories, but it's still in its own way kind of frustrating, because like, okay, dude, you come back with the same creative team with a new number one, which on the surface seems like, what, they're just doing that to sell comics, which they are, but it may
definitely
not be
a byproduct,
right? But it may not be just as cut and dry as just that. So it's kind of a thing that we as older readers kind of have been tussling with, and I guess we've gotten to a place with it, but it's still kind of annoying,
right?
Personally.
It's still discomforting, right? Yeah. It's still discomforting because, as and this is one of the things I posit, is that we have this idea that long running volumes of a book mean something, that it has staying power. Whether or not that remains, a valid publishing format or ideal in this day and age, maybe that's just, that's become antiquated. Maybe that's a little obsolete. We don't know. I don't know yet, because this is the guy who has, is working on completing a run of Uncanny X-Men. You know what I mean? There's no more Uncanny X-Men.
Right.
I'm going backwards through, like I'm right at the very beginning of Dark Phoenix and filling in, going backwards. So at the end of the day, that does say something about, the longevity of the title, but it doesn't exist anymore, and it hasn't in many, many years.
Right. And that's the thing. Like I was saying, we grew up where the books were just one volume, long running, new writers come off and on the book at different, when they finish the story, but usually long runs, long running writers for the most part, and long running volumes, as opposed to now. So it's definitely different from what we grew up with.
Yep.
So, but you know, that's that. I guess that is a conversation for another time in another.
Yeah, that'll be like a full-fledged debate that we're
Exactly.
not going to come to any sort of agreement on because there's so many facets to it.
Right.
All right. So now I guess we can go into rapid fire, and because we have quite a few books to get through, so I am going to spin up the minigun.
All right.
I ain't got time to bleed.
All right, I think Roddykat and I still have a few books left in common. So let me go first because I think I have a few. I think he has. I think I have fewer books than he has left. So first up is Philadelphia number 26 from Image. It's the story in this book is by Rodney Barnes. Layouts and inks are by Jason Sean Alexander. Pencils are by Herman Aramuspe. Colors are by Lee Luffridge, and letters are by Marshall Dillon. Let me tell you, Philadelphia is consistently a great read, and this issue, and I've been talking about Philadelphia seemingly kind of approaching a crescendo in its storytelling, and this issue does nothing but continue it. We're seeing some of our beloved characters, and I say beloved in like very heavy quotation marks, because we're not 100% sure who we should be rooting for in this, because there's werewolves and vampires and vampire hunters. Oh my. So there are some interesting supernatural elements and godlike elements that are introduced that have been introduced over the course of this series, but even more heavily introduced in the last several issues, this issue included. So I feel that obviously this is the terrible place to jump in on now. I would highly recommend going back to the beginning of Philadelphia and reading the first two trade paperbacks. I believe the first one covers 10 issues. I think the second one covers 10 issues. So I would definitely recommend doing that, because this is consistently a great read. Next up, and I think this is where Roddykat and I have books in common. Let's try. I'm going to try to cover these dark web books at once so we can get them the hell out of the way. I forget what the reading order is. I know there is a certain reading order here, so forgive me if
Honestly, it doesn't matter.
Because the Venom book fits in like as an in between, like filling in more. Right.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to at least fill in. Do you have a copy of the reading order in front of you?
I can pull it up real quick though.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Sure. Accessing.
I was about to say we need to. I used to have that Star Trek sound effect.
Let's see. There we go.
Oh, I just got it up. All right, so it's Amazing Venom and then Dark Web. Okay.
Okay.
God, I'm sorry. Like I literally had to click on Amazing Spider-Man number 16 comes first. It's written by Zeb Wells with pencils by Ed McGuinness, inks by Cliff Rathburn, colors by Marcio Moniz, and letters by our favorite lettering paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna. Next up is Venom number 14. It's written by Al Ewing with pencils by Brian Hitch, inks by Andrew Curry, colors by Alex and Claire, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. And last in the dark web, in the group of dark web books out this week, is Dark Web X-Men number 2 of 3. It's written by Jerry Duggan with art by Rod Reese and Phil Noto, and letters by VC's Corey Petit. In a nutshell, these 3 dark web books lay out what Madeline Pryor is looking for, what she's trying to obtain, and she's using as pawns Chasm, Hallows Eve, and Venom as well. And ultimately, Madeline, the once and I guess current and even future Goblin Queen, gets essentially what she wants, but whether or not she's successful in implementing her plan remains to be seen. Do you have anything else to add?
No, I was going to mention, hey, if you're watching the video version, you see the cover of Amazing Spider-Man number 16. That's pretty much the gist of the issue, and that's being going against Peter.
Yeah.
And the Dark Web X-Men book is pretty much Scott and Alex talking, and Madeline being there for the most part, and her trying to I guess that's where her part of the plan gets enacted and getting what she gets.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all.
You know, like we're both talking about this in very broad strokes.
Right.
It's not exactly the most engrossing read. Let's put it that way.
Basically, if you're not catching our tone, we don't care for this event that much. It's just here, but we've said that from the jump, so it shouldn't be a surprise to you if you've been with us for the short length of time that this event has been going on.
Right.
Anyway.
Right. All right. Next up, Captain America: Symbol of Truth, number 8. It's written by Tochi Onyebuchi with art by Ig Guara, colors by Jesus Bertov, and letters again by our favorite lettering paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna. So, I am rapidly not enjoying this story. And we each have, some our own issues with some of the developments that have taken place in this book. I hear sirens in the distance. This is New York City after all, folks. Brooklyn, BK to the fullest over here. There is what's the country? Mohanda?
Yes.
Yeah. So Mohanda, is being overrun by one of T'Challa's old nemesis, one of his old foes, the White Wolf. And Captain America, Sam Wilson, and now Ian Rogers, Nomad, have been brought in to deal with it. Ultimately, though, we have some callbacks to previous issues that involve Sam Wilson and some other characters, and some of his actions from earlier parts of this run have come back to him. I think for the most part, it's like the storytelling seems to be relatively coherent when it comes to Sam's side of the story. When it comes to Joaquin Torres' side, the current Falcon, that's entirely. That is a pretty disappointing secondary story, that's being told. I'm wondering if Roddykat has more to say.
No, I mean, I hadn't read this issue, so.
Okay. Gotcha. I mean, I'm not really spoiling anything here because it's literally just a continuation of the previous issue. So, Roddykat will eventually get to this. Next up is Timeless, number 1. This is the last book from you, believe it or not. It's written by Jed McKay. And you notice there's a pause because the first artist listed as artist in this multiple artist book is none other than Greg Land. Hold on, folks. Hold on. No. This is what I need to hear. No! Thank you. Exactly. So, the other artists on Timeless number 1 are Jay Leaston and Patch Zurcher and Salvador LaRocca. Colors are by Frank Darmada and letters are by VC's Ariana Mar. So this issue specifically is written by Jed McKay, and interestingly, this leads me to a little bit of conjecture, and most informative of that conjecture is that at the end of this issue, which highlights Kang and some time traveling that he's undergoing under duress. That's really the gist of the story. He's going through, he's basically running through time because he is not the conqueror, but the person to be conquered. He is not the hunter, but the prey in this story. And at the end of this issue, it's revealed that more is going to be told in the pages of Avengers, which leads me to believe that Jed McKay is set to be the next writer of Avengers, but we'll have to wait and see what the official announcement is. But if you are vaguely interested in Kang the Conqueror, I think this is a pretty good distillation of what is important about the character and why the character, despite being mostly powerless, has proven to be a pretty effective villain and counterpart to, you know, major super teams like the Fantastic Four and the Avengers. And that's it for me.
Plus, it doesn't hurt that he's going to get some MCU shine coming up in the new year.
Exactly.
So, coincidence? Nope.
Not at all. Not at all.
All right. First up for me is a potential click of the week in Exterminators #4, written by Leah Williams, art by Carlos Gomez. Yeah, no, that's a typo there, but yeah. Colors by Brian Valenza and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. So what I said earlier still holds true, because this whole story started with vampires, and there are still vampires still around in the story, including the fact the head vampire Dracula makes an appearance in this particular story, in which we find out, we basically get caught up with how the ladies ended up in front of the Quiet Council last issue, let's just say. And why they're dressed the way they are. If you're watching the video version, you'll see you'll see what they're dressed in, and that plays into the story and how they got to where they were now. Let's just say someone, and that someone has an alliance with an offshoot set of vampires, has a predilection for collecting, and they come into the fold in this particular issue. But we don't, it's not a thing about it, I don't think we don't see this person, but they get mentioned a couple of different times, so I'm not sure whether we will see this actual person or not. We don't know that one of the ladies apparently has had a run-in with this person before. Now that part I did not know, but you know, just some of these, or maybe I do know and I just don't remember. I don't know. We read a lot of books, but regardless, we're now caught up to basically the present, so to speak, and where they go to after this is, I guess, is going to end, because I think this is a 5-issue limited series, and so the next one is going to be the last one. But we also get Disco Dazzler back, thanks to this issue for a reason, which is not explained, but given everything else that we see in this issue, makes about as sense as everything else. So I've been enjoying it, and it's been great. Next book for myself is Murder World Spider-Man #1. So this is again the, I guess the part 2 of the three one-shot stories that are revolving around that are around the Murder World, basically. This is being written by Jim Zub and Ray Fawkes, with art by Farid Karami, color artist Chris Sotomayor, and letters by BC's Corey Pettit. So you may wonder, hey, it says Murder World Spider-Man. What does Spider-Man have to do with this story? Well, not as much as you would think. That Spider-Man and crew, because if you're watching the video version, you can see there's a few different spider persona that's on the cover, and they are in the book. However, the part they play in this story is pretty much similar to the Avengers, the Murder World Avengers book, in that it's not really them. And I'll leave it at that. But it's also Murder World, so you can kind of put 2 and 2 together and come out with a whole lot of issues. We get some background on one of the contestants in this Murder World thing, who I will go ahead and spoil, make it to the end of this issue, unlike in that Avengers book. To what end, going into the next book, which I believe is the X-Men Murder World book. I'm not sure. But we also find that there are some people that are looking into this Murder World thing. At least one particular person that is looking into this Murder World thing that is actually Arachnic based, I will say, that has had some apparent run-in with Arcade and Murder World previously, has been footnoted in this. So we'll see how that plays out in the next issue. And next up for me is New Mutants #33, which is the end of this volume, with the exception, well, it's the end of the end of this volume, kind of, sort of, not the end of the story, or at least it's not the end of the creative team, I should say, but we'll get to that in a second. It's written by Charlie Jane Anders, with art by Alberto Albuquerque, with Rob Stein and Ted Brandt. Colors by Carlos Lopez and Tamara Bonvillain, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. Like I said, this is the story where, this is the arc where we're introduced to a new young mutant named Shayla Sexton, I believe, who goes by the name of Escapade.
Shout out to Janet Jackson. I know Roddykat said that the last time.
And I believe you said it the time before that. So, so yes, there is that. But basically, this is that character, Wolfsbane, and a couple of other younger mutants trying to escape from Sublime, who is, I guess, of some note to the X-Men corner of the universe in a certain way, or at a certain time and place. Yeah. But apparently, according to a footnote, must be doing some stuff in Marauders too, which I haven't read Marauders in a few issues, so I'm a little lacking on that. So go figure there. But regardless, Sublime is up some things. One of the young mutants who goes by the name of Cerebella, aka No Girl, as she used to be called, but has some history with them. So there's a little bit of story between them, but he's also after her and this new young mutant named Escapade. But it all kind of comes, and there's also some prophecy that is on, kind of surrounding her, which seems to be taken care of in this issue, but seemingly may possibly be leading up to the new limited series that is coming up, that Escapade is going to be, I don't know if she's leading, but definitely she's going to be involved with, that has something to do with Destiny and Emma Frost for somehow coming into this. So while this, like I said, is the end of the New Mutants book, not the end of the New Mutants having any kind of story going on. So I guess we can look out for that. We talked about it last week, so we don't necessarily need to go back into that until that comes out. Next book for me, Star Wars Yoda #2. Written by Kevin Scott, art by Nico Leon, color artist Dono Sanchez Almara, letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. This is still Yoda back in the High Republic days. Well, actually, so the first issue opened up when basically around the time of Empire Strikes Back, when Yoda was exiled on Dagobah, but he started recounting his days back in the High Republic, and that's where this story is pretty much continuing. And in that particular timeline, he pretty much settled in with on a planet with a group of natives for some reason known to him, trying to help them out, but not necessarily do things for them. I guess trying to make them self-sufficient in a ways, but you know, he's a high-profile Jedi, and not necessarily that the troubles that follow him are of his making. There's still some issues that that happen in the course of this issue that are probably going to color what's going to happen to them in the future / what is the past now. So, and it has something to do with what goes on with this group of people that he has embedded himself with. He also plays the kalimba. They're not Star Wars. You're not fooling me. I know what that is. That's a kalimba. You're trying to make it into a Star Wars thing like you did with Calf, but that's a kalimba. I know it. I get it, but come on. Anyway, you'd have to.
Is that a forgive my ignorance? Is that a musical instrument?
Yes.
Okay, so you mean like AK-47s were put into Andor?
Kinda, and like Coffee's Calf.
I gotcha.
Yeah,
and how Vespas were put into.
Well, no, that's just them being just assholes on that one. But
I'm sorry.
No, I know. I try to forget about that part, but you just can't help. But yes, that and the way that Coffee is Calf in the Star Wars universe.
Right.
Yeah, and those stupid Vespas, but
oh my God, folks.
Oh gosh. But
moving on.
Yes, but yeah, Star Wars Yoga is still pretty good. Like I said, it's just you know, they gotta do something with these characters. So next up, goddamn Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts, #5 of 5. Yes, folks, this is the last issue of Thunderbolts. Written by Jim Zub, pencils by Sean Isaacs and with Nezo Diaz, inks by Sean Isaac and Victor Nava, colors by Hava Tartaglia, and letters by VC's Joe Sabino. So, I'm just going to read from my notes here. What was thought to be Terminus ended up being a nightmare. And also there was a weird costume change in the last couple of issues that was not explained, that I don't think had anything to do with what was going on with the story, but I don't know. You know, some things kind of get squashed beef wise, and the whole thing ends up with I guess, let's see, Clint trying to revisit old haunts in a way. So I don't know if the Thunderbolts are going to come back in some way, shape, or form, but we also know they have a movie coming out, so that's a whole nother thing right there. But and it doesn't necessarily set anything up to that point, but we could potentially see the Thunderbolts someplace else. As Luke Cage said in here, you're pretty much not necessarily on, I forgot what he said, on suspension, but it's not necessarily on suspension, but you know, it's another way of saying is like, yeah, probably won't be seeing you for a little bit, but who's to say what'll happen in the future. Also, had to bring this up because I was kind of flipping through the last couple of issues, just kind of reaccount myself with a couple of things that happened, and something that I think we talked about last week with Monica Rambeau's book. As of issue 3 of Thunderbolts, her and Adam Brashear were still together and still kind of lovey-dovey.
No kidding.
Yes. So, and that was only a couple of months ago. So, as you know, actual time. So, in Marvel time, who's to say how much time it was? But still, that was fairly recent. I don't know. That part still kind of weirds me out. I was like, that's kind of a silly. Anyway, maybe we'll find out what happened in the course of the miniseries. Anywho, next up is Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, #1. That's right, folks. The crossover that happened. I guess this is the third time technically that has happened, but the second time in the comic book form, which is weird because it kind of, I feel like I while I read that particular crossover, there was a couple of things that came up here that I don't remember. So maybe I need to go back and refresh my memory. And it wasn't that long ago when the crossover happened. So, but this has been written by Ryan Parrott, illustrated by Dan Mora, colors by Raul Angulo, and letters by Ed Dukeshire. Now, this is a crossover in more ways than one, because it's, one's Boom, the other is IDW. So, those two respectively. But nevertheless, the Turtles somehow are, well, not even somehow, because apparently, if it goes the way of the crossover with the old 90s TV show, I guess you could technically say they're in the same universe. And they don't really say one way or the other in this particular issue, but basically the Turtles are in Angel Grove for reasons, and Donatello and Michelangelo are black. And if you've seen the screenshot floating around, yeah, that doesn't explain why, but if you know the resources they have at their disposal, you get why, or you get why that can happen. Nevertheless, some other things are going on, like some of their enemies are kind of disappearing. Casey Jones disappeared for some strange reason, who was looking for Shredder. And one of those ends up coming up back at the end of the issue with a new suit, let's just say, who is kind of invoking another 80s/90s cartoon that I don't think either one of those companies has access to. But I think that was probably a coincidence, and not necessarily that they were invoking this particular cartoon, but probably a cartoon that probably should and probably will show up on Saturday Morning Adventures, or at least if I had something to say about it. Either way, and April O'Neil is also there in Angel Grove, so they're all buddy and just chilling like nothing's going on. So, and I believe this is also taking place before Mighty Morphin Power Rangers #100, given what I believe happened there, kind of changes the situation for a character. So there is that. But if you've read the first crossover, chances are you will probably like this one, because it's starting off with something, and we still don't get everything on, but hey, it's there. Next book, Flawed #4 of 6 from Image, I believe. It's written by Chuck Brown, art by Prenzy, and letters by Becca Carey. So we start off with a flashback with the main character, Gemma Ez, and her, I think that's her aunt, back during some war. And we kind of find out that the character is kind of pretty badass, and she's already had some skills up until now. But then we cut to the present, where they're basically trying to set a trap for the people they're after, and by using an assassin that Jim has had a run-in with as a particular through line to get to that point. And on the other side of this, we have a detective, that's Detective Davis, that's also on the trail of the serial killer, but they're trying to connect the dots, and they come to find out that the dots kind of run way closer than they need to be to him. So we shall see how that plays out as things start to come together in the next issue. And the last book for myself, it's not the last book, but the next to last book for myself is Midnight Suns #4 of 5, written by Ethan Sachs, art by Luigi Zagraria. Yeah, sure. Hope I didn't mess up your name too badly. Sorry. Zagria, excuse me. Colors by Antonio Fabella and letters by VC's Joe Sabino. So we get a little bit more with Agatha and Valtor. We get the Midnight Suns still trying to, with their new suits, which are reminiscent from the video game, by the way. Of course, there's a new video game out, so they're tie-ins, but not necessarily have to do exactly with the video game. But they're still trying to escape the dark dimension with the help of Sorcerer Supreme Tony Stark of another dimension. But also we get the reveal of another one of the bad guys who are going up against the Midnight Suns, and it's someone that not one of them are familiar with, but someone close to them is familiar with. So, and they are trying to get a certain prophecy that has to do with actually Zoe Laveau from Strange Academy, that they're trying to get to come true. Will that happen? It's starting to look that way, but who's to say if it will stay that way? Because comics. Last book for myself, All Out Avengers #4. And this is going to be great because we get to hear this name again. Written by Derek Landy. Pencils by Greg Land.
Wait a second. Wait a second. No! And also, and I hate to slow the show down just for this, but you know what? It kind of is deserved. Oh, hold on. This is what I get for moving stuff around on my board, right? But yeah.
Hey, boo! It was pretty terrible. It was bad. Well, there were parts of it that weren't very good. It was looking a lot better. Get him away!
There we go.
Inks by Jay Leiston. Was it Leiston?
I've heard it as Leiston.
Okay, so
but yeah. You know what? My memory could be faulty. Sure. So either one, I think is
well,
okay.
Apologies either way if butchered the name, but we'll go with that until we find out otherwise. Colors by Frank Darmada. Letters by VC's Corey Pettit. So apparently, we still don't know. There is a mysterious narrator that's kind of pushing things along. The Avengers are starting to get kind of catch a clue on what's going on with it a little bit more than they have been in the last couple of issues. But they're also adding another character or two. So I guess this is building up to whatever the narrator's trying to push them towards, that they now know things are going on. In the beginning of the book, we get the Black Widow versus, they call it something else, but folks, if you are a Star Wars fan, there is a certain creature that lives in the sand that is pretty much a big open mouth with teeth. Yeah. That
yikes.
But they call it something else because you might as well just go ahead and make Star Wars. Just go ahead and make Star Wars a part of Marvel universe. Just go ahead and do it. You're already there. But anyway, that's a side note. But I'm pointing that out because that's pretty much what started the book. But it's going into this, this big story that has to do with well, not big story, but this issue with another set of Avengers, which happen to be like Black Widow, Spider-Woman, Hawkeye, and Captain Marvel, who I think is pretty much the main one who's been in all of the issues so far, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe they're teasing Spider-Man for the next issue, which I think may be the last one. But regardless, whatever this big thing that's going on, though, we still don't know who or what is behind it. They're still kind of pushing that along. Hey, we're not getting strung along like we are in Spider-Man, but it's still,
Oh no.
or at least not as badly. But at least, if recent things that we have talked about last week are to be the case coming out of this, I think I already know who's kind of involved with this. So we shall see if that comes true. And what this character is going to do going forward. And I don't know if this person was in Timeless or not, because I didn't get a chance to read it. So, but we shall see. Nevertheless, that ends the books for me. Let's click of this week.
Oh, brother, Kliqs of the week.
We didn't get anything from the other dudes, so.
But it is a holiday week, folks, so
Sure.
that is understandable.
And in either way, they're both busy. Either way, even whether it's a holiday or not. So sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't.
Exactly. Do you have something?
I definitely have a couple of potentials.
I've got candidates.
Yeah.
I talked about a couple candidates: Moon Knight number 18, Philadelphia number 26. Heck, even Timeless number 1. I kind of enjoyed, despite Greg Land's art.
Well, and
and She-Hulk number 9 was actually, even with its MCU parallels, kind of grating on my nerves just a touch. I enjoyed it.
For me, my potentials are Exterminators number 4, Moon Knight number 18, definitely She-Hulk number 9. I think that was possibly it, actually. I mean, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was what it was. It was all right, but like there was stuff I couldn't remember, so I was like, wait a minute, I got thrown off for that. But for the most part, those. I mean, Strange Academy is usually in the running for anyway because it's just a consistently good book. So, but so that's just
so
good because it's usually pretty good.
All right, let me submit mine.
Sure.
I'm going to go with my first gut reaction, which was Moon Knight number 18. Shout out to Jed McKay.
You know what? Not mad at you for it.
Timeless number 1 was pretty good too, to be honest. Even with, knowing that they're looking to spotlight Kang, it felt like, yeah, I get it. I see what direction they're looking to go in this year, or this upcoming year, that is.
Right. I mean, and it's just basically the books is like, hey, here's what's coming, and it's clearly Kang centered, like you said earlier. So,
right.
I mean, a lot of times they will hold that off for Free Comic Book Day, and then there's not saying that they're still not going to do something for the Free Comic Book Day, but they've just been adding on to that with books like this, which, sure. They're not bad teases, because I know there's a couple times that when they first started doing this, I was like, okay, I need to see what's going on here, or what's going to happen here, and then when we finally get to it, it's like, oh, okay. For myself, though, Exterminators was pretty good.
I got to go back and read that series, because is there one more issue left?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think I'm gonna try to read 1 through 4, consecutively, and then prepare for the last issue of the series.
And they're fairly quick reads. Like you can get them, pretty easily. So, 4 or 5. So that's confirmed. But I think I'm actually, I'm gonna go with She-Hulk though. But definitely check out the Exterminators. And that, folks, because, you know, She-Hulk was... I should have expected it, but I was not expecting the turn that it took in the middle of the book. I'll just say that. And with that, folks, we are going to go into the news section. So let's get one ad read out of the way first.
Our first ad read of the night is for Funko, Fun at First Sight. It's your home for exclusive collectibles such as their world-famous pop vinyl bobbleheads, apparel including t-shirts, hats, and socks, and brand merchandise such as their custom DIY pop figures, art books, and skateboards. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy 10% off your entire purchase when shopping at Funko. To place your first order with 10% off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at CSPN.US. That's CSPN.US. Then click on the Keep Our Podcast free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Funko link and place your order. When you get to the checkout, put in the offer code SHOP10 for your 10% off discount. Funko through CSPN.US. Do it today. And now we get into the news.
Cinematic news, folks, as we do. Last one of the year. Enjoy it, because there's not much. Marvel's Wonder Man series premiere window may have been revealed. So this article is speculating long-windedly that they have a potential time frame of when the Wonder Man series is to be expected. And according to this, it says, according to this, it says they're speculating second half of 2023 or the beginning of 2024. And this is coming off of, Wonder Man head writer Andrew Guest as a guesstimate of the release based on something they found. So whether it happens, who knows? Don't know. Next up.
Give me a second. I had to reload the sheet and it's taking its sweet time.
Yeah.
It's taking it. I was going to say, would you mind taking the next story
Sure,
while I'm scrolling down?
Marvel confirms an official MCU timeline, but there's a catch. So there is a new book called the Marvel Cinematic Universe, an official timeline, which is being released by Penguin Random House Books. And authors Anthony Breznican, Amy Radcliffe, and Rebecca Theodore Vachon, a couple of names of those that I remember, that I
recognize.
Thank you. The book will serve as the, quote, the definitive filmmaker endorsed guide to the MCU timeline with tantalizing new details for fans to discover. So yeah, it's basically says that it talks about the Infinity Saga and then it goes into the multiverse saga and what could be culminating in the King Dynasty and Secret Wars coming up. But it pretty much just teases anything, because I'm not sure. It basically goes... Yeah, I think it just goes to the Infinity Saga stuff and according to this, it says, follow the entire story of the MCU from before the Big Bang to the blip and beyond. And along the way, learn about the evolution of the Iron Man armors, the Hunt for the Infinity Stones, formation of the multiverse, yakety, yakety, schmackety, wackety. If you're interested in this book, though, it will be released on September the 5th, 2023, and you can go, I guess pre-orders are already out there, if you are so inclined. Next up.
Spider-Verse 2 teases its mature plot. It's apparently not a kid's movie. That's maybe not the best thing in the world, but you know what? We'll see. Although an official rating has not yet been given to it, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse senior character animator Aire Santos has hinted that the upcoming film isn't a kids movie. Okay.
I mean, some more argued parts of the first movie were not as kid friendly as you would think. You know, I'm not saying it was like real heavy because it wasn't. It wasn't anything real graphically, you know, intensive either.
Right.
But,
It's all about interpretation, at least for this movie. You know,
right.
because I guess what you could say is that it's meant to reflect the characters also growing up, just a touch
Sure.
from the first movie. So, you know, we'll see.
Yeah.
Much like, you know, I hate to, you know, it's our second Harry Potter reference, right? Much like, you know, the Harry Potter kids from the first to the second or third movies, you have to expect a little bit of the same.
Yep. Too bad the creator hasn't grown up, but that's beside the point.
Right. That's, I was about to say, that's more along the lines of showing true colors.
Yes. Mission Impossible director might join James Gunn's DCU on one condition.
Tom Cruise has to come in. No, okay, go ahead.
Actually, no, but you're not too far off, because Christopher McQuarrie said that recently suggested that he may consider joining the DCU, but only on the condition that Palm Clementif is involved.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. Apparently she is. Oh, apparently she is in that new Mission Impossible movie. She's at Dead Reckoning Part 1. So he's worked with her. It says in turn, Corey's tweet received. Oh, wait. Okay, so here's the quote. James and I don't have the capacity to collaborate until we've each finished harnessing the unimaginable power of Palm Clementif. So he's kind of hot and heavy on her. Sounds like, I don't know. I mean, you know, it's just,
hey, I don't blame him.
Lightly understandable, I guess, in a certain respect, but outside of that, but yeah, and of course that tweet was given hearts by Palm Clementif herself, and like I said, found out that she is in Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. So this is not the first time that, you know, there have been folks, you know, people have their people that they like to turn to. People have their crushes or objects of their desires. I'm not saying that's what this is, but, you know, I'm just saying Mila Jovovich got a lot of roles, you know, for having to do with her husband, let's say. So not necessarily of her acting ability, but, you know, just saying things like that tend to happen in Hollywood. Not saying that this is that. I'm just saying it happens. Next up.
If a new report is to be believed, Avatar: The Last Airbender sequel series, The Legend of Korra, could be getting its very own sequel series in 2025. I can't believe we're even talking about 2025. According to Avatar News, the next animated series in the Avatar universe, focusing on an earthbender who succeeds Aang, or is it Aang?
Aang.
Aang and Korra as the Avatar is currently in the works at Avatar Studios and Paramount, not to be confused with James Cameron.
Yes.
The new series is said to be targeting a 2025 launch. Moreover, Avatar News reports that an animated movie featuring this new Earth Avatar in their era is coming to theaters in the years after the show comes out. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, hey, if the MCU can play the long game, so can Avatar, I guess. Which we knew they were planning stuff. So, so yeah, there's the new Doctor Who trailer that teases a special in 2023. So I guess this article says that, you know, even though there was not a Christmas special from this year, the BBC dropped a trailer for what's to come for Doctor Who in 2023. And of course, this also mentions the fact that David Tennant is somehow back back again. If you quoting Oscar Isaac and Rise of Skywalker. And it says here that Catherine Tate will be returning as Donna Noble, and apparently Neil Patrick Harris is going to show up as a mystery villain. And this is before Nkute Gatwa makes his turn as the Doctor. So I assume this is going to be sooner rather than later. It says here from Russell T. Davis, who's the showrunner, we wanted to give friends, and family a lovely little Christmas present with a promise that 2023 will be a riot of Doctor Who goodness. So, Whovians unite, I guess. Next up,
we are entering into the anime corner. How's your progress on Dragon Ball Super?
Still where I am the last time. Thanks for asking.
Okay, just wondering. Because, like I played that. I was like, oh, I remember Roddykat said he was going to watch, kind of get into that or finish it or something.
That's actually on the basically coming up soon.
Gotcha. I mean, it's not like I've progressed that far in Yu Yu Hakusho. Right. So I think I'm still within the...
Oh, okay.
First up, Bleach 1,000-Year Blood War surprises with Ishin's big decision. Okay, so 1,000-Year Blood War fleshed out some key details about the past between Ichigo Kurosaki's parents, and the final episodes of the first slate of episodes in the new anime series reveal the huge decision Ichigo's father Ishin had made in order to protect Ichigo's mother Masaki. Okay.
And the funny part about that is, like, I remember Ichigo's dad. I never remember hearing his name ever. But then again, I don't think that he became a non-issue after that first part.
Gotcha.
Or probably showed up again later that I haven't gotten to yet. But anyway, I like how there's an article here on why Ash Ketchum and Lionel Messi are basically twins. Y'all.
Oh my gosh.
Y'all calm down, folks. Anyway.
Listen, we're trying to keep soccer in the limelight for some reason. I don't know. Go away, soccer. World Cup's not for another several years. Sorry. With all due respect to Pele, one of the greatest soccer players ever, who passed away today.
Exactly.
Obviously, that was all over the news. Rest in peace. Indeed. Rest in power, Pele.
Indeed.
But at the same time, let's stop trying to make soccer happen.
But also, fuck cancer.
I know all our international fans are like, yo, dude.
Yeah, I was like, there's more of us than y'all clowns, so shut that up.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
But also, like I said, fuck cancer. But anyway, our next article: when will Bleach the 1,000-Year Blood War Part 2 return? And this article is speculating that Studio Pierrot has plans to release Bleach in July 2023, but they don't have there's not an exact date according to this article. So again, yeah, probably sometime in the middle of if this is right, sometimes in the middle of 2023. So, which that's a whole six to 7 months. That's technically more than 8 at this point, but either way, we don't know one thing or the other. Next up,
Chainsaw Man season finale. Something that Roddykat has not watched yet, so I'm not going to spoil it. Right?
Correct.
So the episode dropped a number of hints as to where the anime will head when or if a second season arrives on the small screen. Obviously, there is an ongoing manga. While there is yet to be an announcement that Denji & Company will receive a feature-length film, the Bloody Shonen franchise will be receiving its first live-action adaptation next year, though it might not be in a way that many fans expected. Okay. Reading. Now I gotta open up the article. Why is it that it's not in the way? Oh, it's a play, and I see. So, an official Twitter account for the Chainsaw Man live action stage play has been created, and will share future details following this new confirmation that Denji, Aki, Power, and Makima will be hitting the stage, joining series such as Spy X Family and Attack on Titan, which have done the same. I did not know this. This is new to me.
They do that. Like sometimes they'll get both. Like sometimes there's a live action adaptation, like what Netflix does, and a lot of times they get stage plays apparently if they're popular enough. So, and apparently it's a big thing. Weird.
I was about to say that's a section of the arts that I have very little experience with, other than Shakespeare. Right. So it's interesting to hear that they would actually put on stage productions of adaptations of some of these manga. So that's interesting.
Which, let's face it, possibly better than what the Netflix and certain other live action anime has done. So who's to say? I don't know. I haven't seen any of them either. Anywho,
it's just, to me, I was about to say, it's just very interesting. As I said, it's news to me, like very much a new concept for me.
Right. Yeah. My Hero Academia teases All for One's final plan.
Well, are we transitioning over to manga, yes, as opposed to anime? Sure. All right. So.
I've just started putting them together, so I just end up running into the other.
Right.
But it says here that My Hero Academia is coming down to the final stretches of its story, and it seems that the arch-villain All for One's final plans for world domination is in view, both literally and figuratively, according to this article. Are you up on the latest chapter? Because I know you read it.
I don't know if I'm up. There was that publishing gap because Horikoshi was sick. So let me double check.
Well, I won't go too far into this either way.
You make me curious now. But go ahead. It doesn't matter if you spoil it.
No, I mean, like I said, I don't know too much about it, so there's not much I can really spoil because I don't know too much about what's going on in the manga. But that being said, that it says here that Himiko Toga put her master plan in action, copying the form and abilities of her BFFs twice and raising an army of clones to overrun the heroes. And apparently, Dabi, who is not a real elf, is unleashing.
Oh no! Spelled differently. Also, go ahead.
Is unleashing his most fearsome flames ever. So. And according to this, is suddenly adding the heroes are learning why All Might had them divide these villains up in the first place, and then the rest goes into spoiler territory. So next up.
Oh, I did not read this issue.
Oh, okay.
Or this chapter. Oh, okay. So I have something to catch up on. Okay, right, because it came out. It published Christmas Day, right. So I did not catch it. All right. Next up, Superman's secret identity apparently nearly killed one of his closest friends. Spoiler alert for Action Comics number 1050, on sale this week. So apparently the revelation of learning Clark Kent as Superman nearly kills... how can I put this? Great Caesar's ghost.
He almost became Great Caesar's ghost.
Right. So without completely spoiling it, if you know which character uses that particular exclamation, then that's really what happens in this issue.
Which is amusing given the competition and the revelation, a similar revelation happening with a major character there, and a very hyper person in a very similar was, or at least formerly in a very similar vein, would have had a heart attack but didn't, but anyway, so that's there's the distinguished composition's difference, but also they stay losing. Anyway, Superman's color scheme redesign makes his powerful new form official. And this is spoiler alerts for DC Mech number 5, which I did not know was still a thing going on. and I have not read any of it. But apparently Kal-El becomes Superman in this alternate Pacific Rim inspired reality, complete with a new paint job for his Kryptonian mech suit, etc., etc., etc. So yeah, it's Justice League with mechs, and now he's got a big blue and red mech to use. So yay. Next up.
In Catwoman number 50, apparently DC kills off one of Batman's weirdest villains. Most of the headlines have centered around the death of a character named Valmont, Catwoman's most recent love interest.
Who?
And her subsequent arrest for his murder. But the issue also saw a death of one of Batman's rogues, whose death kicked off the sequence of events leading to the end of Valmont. That villain, Amygdala, who has been a periodic presence in the comics and on TV over the last 30 years or so. Again,
Who?
Yeah, go figure. Okay.
Yeah, that works.
Batman Mr. Freeze unveils new disturbingly grotesque secret layer, which is a spoiler for Detective Comics 1067, which is on sale now. So apparently Mr. Freeze battles Batman. They have they go at it. Mr. Freeze wakes up in Mr. Freeze's lair. You know what? If you know about the character of Mr. Freeze, you know it's cold and it's ice to meet you. You know what? I won't say too much more about it. So he's got some stuff going on.
I was going to say, you're missing the Arnold accent.
Yeah, I know, but yeah. It was terrible.
Stick around.
It was terrible either way. Okay, everybody.
Stick
freeze.
around. Get to the chopper.
Indeed.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Wrong movie, same actor.
Yeah, indeed. But basically, apparently, Mr. Freeze's lair has a bunch of crazy, freaky statues and whatnot in it, ice sculptures and whatnot. So yeah, there you go. Next up.
So, in this week's John Stewart, the Emerald Knight #1 one-shot, apparently John Ridley, the writer, writer Jeffrey Thorne, I apologize, artist Marco Santucci, colorist Michael Atiyeh, and letterer Rob Lee have undone one of the biggest, most tragic mistakes that John Stewart made in his role as a Green Lantern. Not going to spoil it, but if you are familiar with the character, in most formats, they have touched upon this. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
And you can thank Hypertime, apparently.
Apparently. Yeah, I haven't had a chance. I wanted to read this issue, this issue, but I didn't get a chance to. So that's why we didn't talk about it. So maybe bring it up next week or something. I don't know. Next up, though, Funko headlines Free Comic Book Day 2023 merchandise. So Diamond Comic Distributors has announced the upcoming release of the 2023 Free Comic Book Day previews exclusives PX Funko Pop vinyl figure. It's a mouthful. It's available in the weeks leading up to Free Comic Book Day and during an event on Saturday, May 6th, 2023. And it apparently is, drum roll.
I was about to say, you really want the drum roll?
Not really, but
okay, go ahead.
Well, let's just say, change, old form of man, rise the demon Etrigan.
Ah.
And that's all I need to say, because if you know if you know that character, you know that it is. And if you're not, you can see the pictures on the video version if you're watching it. Next up.
Diamond Select toys in stores now include X-Men, Clone Wars, The Mandalorian, and more. Guess what? If you didn't get what you wanted for Christmas, you can still go out and buy some stuff for yourself.
That's factually true.
5 new items just hit comic stores this week, courtesy of Diamond Select Toys and Gentle Giant Limited. Perfect for people on your post-holiday shopping list, especially yourself. So, as Roddykat scrolls through this, you see Marvel Animated X-Men Storm 1/7 scale mini bust, a Star Wars The Clone Wars Cad Bane 1/7 scale animated mini bust, Star Wars A New Hope Tusken Raider Legends in 3D half-scale bust, Star Wars Rogue One Cassian Andor 1/6 scale mini bust, Star Wars The Mandalorian Fennec Shand 1/6 scale mini bust, and that's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, I don't normally go in for like busts and stuff, but a couple of those are kind of neat. Wait, does Fennec I think has a figure, but Cassian does not. I'm thinking, correct?
Not for long.
Well, that is also true, but yeah, but at this current time, I don't think it does. So interesting. Anywho's, Marvel teases new Avengers series, which is pretty much going back to what was teased with the timeless thing. But yeah, this is basically talks about what was teased out in Timeless 22 #1, which Agent 70 talked about earlier. And the speculation as to who's going to be the Avengers writer, even though I haven't read the Timeless #1, but given who wrote it, kind of makes sense with what Agent 70 said. If it bears out to be that case, then I'd be curious to see what's going to happen in the pages of Avengers. That being the case. Next up.
As Ben Percy and Corey Smith continue to tell the tale of Johnny Blaze in Marvel's ongoing Ghost Rider series, another title is launching featuring a different iteration of the character. This coming March 2023, the spirit of vengeance will once again stalk the stars, all thanks to a new cosmic Ghost Rider series from writer Stephanie Phillips and artist Juan Cabal. Okay.
I think we may have talked about this before, but I don't think we had the creative team at the time.
Right, I think so. I think you're right.
So, hey, fans of Cosmic Ghost Rider, go for it. Last but not least, as of this past December 28th, Stan Lee would have been 100 years old. So rest in power, Stanley Lieber.
Yes, we miss you, Stan.
Indeed. And of course, social media if you've been out there on social media in any length and place, you've seen people talking about it on that day.
Right, and artists specifically posting like tribute pieces to him as well.
Mm-hmm. And in fact, I want to say there was some stuff of his that I think got reissued this week. Like I think that chakra series that he did after the fact came out. There was something else I can't remember because I think I got the covers for it.
Okay.
Yeah. Tales of Earth 6, the stuff he did with DC.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that also got reissued this week, but I don't think we got the copies of it or any of it or whatever that was. But regardless, we salute you, Stan Lee, always with us. And that is it, folks, for this week's news. Can we get one last ad read?
Oh, goodness. Listen, you know what it is when it's late, we're tired. It's literally the last parts of 2022. A year I would most definitely like to put in the rearview mirror. Keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us and click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, or Marvel Legends. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment that helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles podcasts free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through CSPN.us. Do it today.
All right, folks, we are going to put this year in rice, throw it out with the trash, all that kind of good mess. We'd like to thank each and every one of you all for coming out.
Yes, and I'll say this. No year is ever perfect. No year is ever all good or all bad. It's very much a roller coaster. Ups, very high highs, and sometimes very low lows. And that's definitely what 2022 was for myself. I hope it wasn't nearly as peaks and valleys as it was for me. You know, I hope your 2022 was not like that. If it was, hopefully 2023 has a lot more peaks.
And I know for some folks it'll be like, well, it's not only been 2022, it's been 2021, and in certain respects 2020.
Right.
Not in short due to the pandemic, but just overall.
Just overall.
Yeah, overall world events. Just been going on. So definitely I echo the sentiments that I'm hoping that 2023 is a better year for everyone. And even better for those with good minds and hearts. I will add that to myself.
Those who really need it and deserve it, because they have been, dealing with some really rough things over the last several years.
So, and with that, I have been Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram. Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. PC_Dirt on Twitter. PopCultureNet on Twitter. PopCultureNetwork.com and all his own umbrella sites therein. And Tim DOGG98 on Twitter. CB Cron on Twitter, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account. The Kliq Nation on Twitter. That's TheKliqNation, all one word. And of course, Tim is over there at comicbook.com writing his face off. You can find this here podcast on the Coastal Podcast Network. That's CSPN.us.
Do it today.
You can also find us on your podcast virtual place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coastal Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. Excuse me. You can also find us, of course, in the new year, recording every Thursday night, 9:30-ish p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the YouTube channel of the Kliq Nation. That's youtube.com/TheKliqNation and twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles.
Make sure to hit like and subscribe and, hit the notification button so that you know when we're on.
Yeah. And with that, this has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. 1 second.
Let me clear my throat!
Happy New Year!
There we go.